doing these things might be costing you sales and influence. You're going to want to listen up to this episode if you're somebody who is in a sales role, if you're somebody who is a business owner who's selling products or services, and if you are in a position in an organization, a leader who's driving decisions, if you have influence, if you are in a role trying to influence team members on decisions, if you're trying to influence the board, you're going to want to listen up because I'm going to be talking about some common mistakes that I see people make. Actually, some things that I have helped clients with and that I have heard people say on different calls, in different conversations that could be costing you not only the sales, but the influence, but also just the confidence that you have. So listen up to some of the mistakes and also what you can do instead. All right, friends, let's talk about your sales and influence. This episode is inspired by a recent conversation that I had with my husband, who was taking a kind of prospecting call from home. And of course, I could kind of hear some of the conversation. We got done and I just couldn't help myself. And the thing is, I've coached him for years in the past. Obviously, being a high performance coach, I'm able to help coach him through some things with his business, with communication things. And so I've coached him in the past on different things. So I was listening to his call and there's so many things that he did awesome. And then there was a couple things that I was like, oh, if he were to just tweak those things, that would make it even more powerful. Because here's the thing, this is my expertise. Like, he's the expert in the financial things and all of that world. And mine is in communication and how to communicate more effectively and for more influence. And so I'm sitting there listening like, oh, wait, say it like this. Wait, don't do that. And so he got done and I was like, hey, how do you think that went? And he's like, well, just give me your feedback. I was like, no, I'm going to take the coach approach first and I'm going to ask you how you think it went. I was like, are you open to some feedback? So I actually want to share with you because it's not just him that does this. I hear and I see this with people all the time when I'm working with them, whether I'm working with leaders who are trying to influence the board on decisions, CFOs who are trying to influence budget decisions. If I'm working with financial advisors or insurance or anyone who is in a sales type role who's growing their business and getting clients. I see this a lot. And so I wanted to share this with you because whether you are somebody who is in a direct sales role or if you're somebody who's pitching ideas to people and trying to get influence, these are some things that might be like mistakes that you are making that could be costing you that as much power and influence as you could have. So my first thing is I always ask first. I was like, hey, are you open to feedback? What do you think that you did really well? What do you think you could have done better? So let me point out a couple things that I see a lot of the time. One of the first things, and of course I always point out like, hey, this is what you did really well. And then also here's some things to consider working on. So one thing that I can see a mistake that people make is you are the expert, okay? And this is, I've coached a lot of very like technical experts. So like CFOs or like in pharmacy or people in like bio, like engineer, like all of the, like you might be in a very technical space. And so you're the expert. You know all of the things. And sometimes the struggle is translating that to somebody who doesn't know all the things or doesn't need to know all the things. They don't need to be in the weeds. And so mistake number one that I see people make is you are word vomiting all over the person you're talking to and you lose them so quickly. They aren't bought in yet to what you're saying. And so what we need to do is we need to really think about who is the person that I'm talking to and what level of detail do they actually need from me? Do they need the weeds? Do they need the details? Or how can I, more often than not, you need to be zooming out and giving them hey, this is what we're going to talk about today. So mistake number one with a solution is instead of getting right into the weeds, think about who you're talking to and make sure that you're catering the message to that particular person, to that particular audience. Do they really need all the details? And then along with that is make sure that right off the bat, you're setting up what it is that you're going to be talking about today. Hey, we're meeting together today because I want to hear how things are going for you. And I wanted to, talk about some maybe other potential solutions for you or whatever, fill in your specific thing about why you're actually there. Okay. The other thing then kind of tied to that, the mistake that I see people take is you're kind of like popcorn, like popping all over the place. You're talking about this. And again, they're not following along with you. You need to take them on a very clear journey, whether you're trying to pitch them on your sales or you're trying to convince them or influence them of a decision. It needs to all be tied together and you need to make transitions between it. So you start talking about one thing and then you have to like weave that together. The storytelling piece is really important. What story are you telling? If you're trying to influence them they're already working with somebody who's in the field that you're in and you're trying to influence them to work with you instead, you first need to ask them some questions about how things are going, what some pain points or they might have. Acknowledge and validate. It's a coaching technique we use. Acknowledge and validate. Well, it makes sense that you're feeling frustrated given that you're looking for this, or that sounds awesome that you're really happy with where you're at. What could make it feel even better for you? Or things like that where you're connecting the pieces for them and then you're taking them on that journey. So we just talked about this. Next, we're going to talk about this and how it connects to this, right? So really make it a very seamless experience for them. The third mistake that I can see sometimes is the filler words. And so I'm not throwing him under the bus. I didn't ask, I think he'd be fine with me saying this. But one of the things I shared with Jake from his calls, I said, you need to work on the ums. For him, because he's a very analytical in terms of he's thinking of the numbers and the finances and the investment and all of those things as his brain is processing. I always say it like trying to catch the next thought. As he's trying to catch the next thought, he's just was automatically saying, and I see this with people all the time. You throw in a filler word and it's not necessarily that you're not confident. More often than not, I think you are very confident when you're talking about, but you're trying to catch that next thought and you're filling it in with a word. And that can come off as not confident. It also can be really distracting. Some people don't notice. I will admit that because I always try and catch myself with filler words because I help people with speaking and communication, I tend to kind of see them maybe more than others. And so that can be super distracting. And it also can come off like you're not confident. So really working on those filler words. And if you're trying to sort of catch that next thought, if you're trying to think of the next thing you want to say, it's much better to just pause and just wait for that next thought to come instead of filling it in with a word. That pause is going to allow you to just, maybe that's going to inspire a quick question from them, or it's going to allow them to catch up, but it's also going to allow you to get that next thought without filling it in with a word. So that would be another thing that I say. And then another mistake that I can see sometimes is just in general, just the way that you can be more concise and more clear and confident with what you're saying. What I can see is people can tend to over explain because you're trying to sell or you're trying to influence. And you might be like, well, the questions they're asking, I don't think they're on board. So I'm going to push a little bit more, or they're not asking questions. And so you can kind of get in your head sometimes and you over explain until now you've kind of confused them, or it doesn't seem like. And I had this with a different client that I saw as we were practicing like some of his sales language and things like that, is he had this tendency to sort of over explain. And then again, that comes off like not as confident. So instead, I want you to practice being really clear and concise with it. If they have more questions, they will ask you. Right? So how can you be more concise in the language when you're trying to influence? And just think of what are the key points. I remember I had this client one time who we were working a lot on this. He really had gotten feedback. He was an executive level, and he had gotten feedback that when he's talking to the C-suite, when he's talking to the board, that he really needed to work on zooming out and not giving so much detail and so much things. And so I had him practice one of his sort of presentations that he was going to get. And I remember we were working on this one slide, and he kind of shared with me, he talked. And then I said, okay, so what you're trying to say is, and I said it back to him in like one or two sentences. And he's like, yes, how do you do that? That's what I'm here for. Okay. And so if you were to think about what it is that you wanted to explain to that person, challenge yourself to say, how could I say this in one or two sentences? How could I bring this down? And if they have more questions, that's fine. Or say the one or two sentences, and then maybe on the next section, you elaborate. But more often than not, when I'm working with people on this, we can take a lot of the things you're saying and we can cut out a lot of the words, and it's just going to come off much more powerful. And then tied with that, again, what I would say is a mistake that I see sometimes is your inflection and your tone of voice is really important too. So if you're kind of quiet, or if you have those filler words that you're saying, if you're thinking and processing, sometimes the tone of your voice too just doesn't come off as powerful. I want you to think about, how can I be, and it's not this like in your face type energy. It can be a very relational, very conversational, and also though you're really confident in what you offer. So again, if you're trying to influence them to like start working with you or something like that, be confident in that it's that you or think that this is the right thing for them to do. And at the same time, like, hey, based on what you shared with me, this sounds like a really great solution. And here's why. Boom, boom, boom. Would love to partner with you. If it doesn't make sense at this time, would love to, stay connected, right? Based on kind of the energy that they're giving from you. So it's not forceful, but it's also just really confident. Like, this is what I have to offer. And also another thing that I'll say that I recommend is have some sort of client or other examples in your head of like, hey, this sounds like another client that I worked with, or this sounds like another situation I was in. And here's why they decided to work with us, because it was going to do this, this, and this, right? Or again, if you're in more of a leadership role and you're trying to influence them of a decision, what's in it for them? What's the buy-in? What's in it for the company, right? So if you were to say, our strategic initiative is this decision, this thing right here is going to directly tie to that initiative. Or, we're trying to save money here. This is going to directly tie to that. So really make it clear and make those connections for people. And the last thing I would say is just really think about your energy. Your energy matters, right? So I'm certified as an energy leadership practitioner, which is based in neuroscience, which is based in positive psychology, right? Like, all our thoughts, our words, all of those things are made up of energy, and people feel those. They experience that energy from us. So really setting your energy and having this right energy, where I call it like this kind of magnetic energy that people want to be around you. When you have that, you can be much more influential. So hopefully these tips help you. These are things top of mind. If you're somebody who is in a type of sales role and you're looking to get more influential, if you're looking to get more sales based on your language, let's talk. If you're a leader who's looking to have more presence and influence, or if you need this for your team, please connect. I take one-on-one clients where we can work on this specifically. We also can do trainings for teams to help them with this as well. So if that's something that you're looking for, go ahead and check out the show notes, set up a call with me. Would love to connect with you on helping you become more influential, helping you get more sales, helping you drive more decisions in your businesses.